Good morning. I'm Keith B, and I'm trapped inside of a Wendy's. I've been here since 1998. Today, I want to talk about Lars Alexanderson, the poster boy of Tekken 6. So Lars has been around for a while, and I think what's kind of interesting about Lars is he's probably changed the most of like any character in Tekken since his debut. Like originally Lars was kind of a very poking, you can see he's got this -1 down forward 1, good jab, and like a kind of defensive poking, good whiff punishment, and like, you know, kind of poke, get the sidestep, get the arc blast, whiff punish, or kind of poke and fish for his counter hit down forward 2. And what happened is Lars's counter hit down forward 2 got taken away for a while. I'll show you what it looks like when he gets the old counter hit on this thing. It's a pretty good counter hit. Full combo from that. And it got put back, but it's from full crouch now. So he can like use this to condition after moves like his down back 4. But he can't just like fish with it in neutral anymore. And as a result of these changes, Lars's like mix-up and stance game got heavily buffed. So now Lars is very stance focused, and he's very mix-up focused, and most Tekken 8 Lars players tend to play Lars with a very mix-up heavy playstyle. And the mix-up playstyle that Lars brings is kind of about like he's got these strings, and I want you guys just quickly note the data, the frame data display and the input display here. It's for my player 1. So always when I'm doing demonstrations on player 1, that's what the frame data is for. I heard some people say it was a little too convoluted having the player 2 display up as well. But I am going to switch to player 2 because I got a little pre-recorded sequence here. So Lars's offensive game amounts to like a lot of like, I can finish this string, or I can cancel the string, go into stance, and then apply pressure from there. And it can be pretty effective. The drawback of this play style is that Lars's lows are kind of unsafe for what they are. And even in most cases, the mids Lars is using to mix you up, those aren't safe either. So it turns into a little bit of a gambler play style on Lars's part that with proper punishment can be mitigated, but you also have to know where the mix-ups are happening and how to read what strings can cancel into stance, and I'm here to help you with all of that today. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of Lars, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I can't promise you delicious glazed ham for subscribing to this channel, but I also won't not promise you delicious glazed ham for subscribing to this channel. Look at it. Look at it! So Lars has, I mentioned his old kind of key move was this full crouch down forward 2. Now that it's relegated to full crouch, it's kind of not his primary neutral tool anymore. He has a new toy in Tekken 8 that strangely has been buffed since Tekken 8 came out, in the short time it came out, and what was kind of considered a bug fixing patch. This dynamic entry 3 was made even more plus on block for reasons I don't understand, but that's what it is. And you can see this thing is pretty hard to win because he moves forward with forward 3 when he goes into dynamic entry. And then when he goes to 3, that has lots of range. This is a homing mid that is +5, and it puts him in his other stance, silent entry. He actually has a third stance in this game called limited entry. So we have dynamic entry, or Den, which looks like this. We have silent entry, or Sen, which looks like this. And we have limited entry, which is this little, like, he does like a little squat. That's a limited entry. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, dynamic entry 3, +5, homing, heat engager, hits from a mile away. What's not to like here? As a Lars player, you should do this move a lot if you're a Lars player. If you're fighting against Lars, what this will mean is you probably don't want to sidewalk him too much when you're spaced out, because this move will just clip you if you're sidewalking. So one of Lars's weaknesses was kind of his tracking, and this move I think was put in here to address that. You can step guard still, like if you want to step guard to the right often, that can be kind of rewarding against Lars, but not a lot of sidewalking. We're not going to try to sidewalk his wall running 3. He's probably not even going to do wall running 3 because he has this move. I wouldn't wall running 3 if I had this move. I would just do this move, the one that's homing. So you want to just kind of step guard and be very careful. This is also doubly true because his down back 4 is another very important spacing tool. It is a low, +5 on hit, counter hit launches, launch punishable on block. So this move also cannot be sidewalked. So it's not, doesn't have the homing animation. I sidewalked it there because he's off axis. But like if we're actually gonna do this, it's not a move that you can reliably sidewalk. It's not a true homing move. So if he's like turned like this, if he's off axis and then we sidewalk, you can probably clear it like I did earlier. But it's not something that you reliably can sidewalk. So 2 moves that kind of shut down sidewalking, and that means sidewalking is not what we want to do when we're spaced out. A lot of the game plan against Lars is going to be dealing with this dynamic entry 3 and what his options are as he follows up with it. And if you want more on that, if that's the only thing you want to know about Lars, just skip to the stance section. This video is time-stamped, so you don't have to watch the rest of this if you already know it. Okay, so when Lars is up close, I mentioned he's got pretty good pokes. He's down for 1, -1 on block, +5 on hit. He has his double tap, which is a 2-hit mid safe string. Does a little bit of damage, +6 on hit. Very nice. But the thing is, most of his pokes, you can just step to the right. He has kind of like the opposite. He's kind of like the mirror of Kazuya and Deviljin having a left side weakness. Lars has a little bit of a right side weakness. And that's kind of always been the case for Lars. So you can see if I just record this and I step right, that whiffs. I can record just kind of any of his main pokes will not tend to track me when I step right. Now, he does have some help in this regard. His new down 4-2 does have pretty decent tracking. So this one, when he's on axis, I kind of have to look, like he like goes like the wrong way. I don't know why he goes the wrong way. If a Lars player knows why Lars is going like why I don't know if he can even hit me from over there. I think I can just backdash, but this will still hit me for stepping right. It seems kind of glitchy. Maybe they should fix that instead of making Lars's dynamic entry 3 more plus. Anyway, that move can clip you for stepping right. Results may vary. He's also got his back 1, which is a pretty fast homing move. It's mid, but it's only +4. It pushes back, and you can just backdash if you get hit by this. So I'm not super scared of it. And then he has his back 1+2. But the problem with back 1+2 is, while it's homing, it's a little too slow for its own good. So we can just step guard this and not have to like really deal with it too much. So as long as you're step guarding right up close, you don't have too much to worry about with Lars. I think the down 4-2 might get tweaked at some point because it does seem like it's maybe not working as intended when I test it out. And I know some Lars players like to throw that out a lot because it does have some counter hit properties, but it doesn't feel like the really good replacement for his down 4-2 that Lars players have maybe been waiting for. I don't know. If you're a Lars player and you like down 4-2, let me know. Before we get into stances, I want to talk about some of Lars's most important moves to punish. So I'm going to record these on player 1 here because I want you to see the frame data on this. One of his most notorious moves is his lightning screw, up forward 3. This move has crazy tracking and crazy evasion and is a launcher, and it also is minus 26 on block, so make sure you punish that. Speaking of launchers, back forward 2-1, Blue Bolt, as it's known, is a 14 frame mid launcher that does a lot of damage, and it's minus 18 on block. While we're not in the stance section just yet, I think it's worth noting that his silent entry 3, so in the stance when he's ducking down like this, silent entry 3 is minus 14, and that's going to be a mid launcher that he mixes up with a lot. So if you have a good 14 frame punish like Lars here, then you should definitely make sure you're punishing that. I already mentioned this move, down back 4. This is a stagger punishable move. I'm going to go ahead and record it over here. And this move we got to talk about this a little bit because some players find this move to be seeable. I would classify this as hard to see. It's 21 frames, so technically anything over 20 frames you can see, but it's not the easiest one to see, so don't beat yourself up if you're not reacting to this. I have a hard time reacting to this myself. It's kind of a weird animation compared to like a snake edge or something. Yeah. But if you can react to it, that's great. You don't have to be able to react to this in order to play the matchup. You can play the matchup just fine without being able to react to this move. It's not like a snake edge situation. And you definitely should make sure that you are launch punishing this thing. Launch punishing this thing. Back 3-4 is a long range mid-high string. Usually used as a whiff punisher, but some Lars players like to just throw it out. It does not jail, and there's no mid option after this, so just duck it and punish. While standing 2-1 is a very important string for Lars because he can cancel the first hit into his silent entry stance, and it is a 2-hit mid string that will put you in full crouch, but it's only minus 12. So it's kind of a weird situation where, let me go ahead and have the dummy do it to me. You might think that, like, oh, I can get my 13 frame rate. You can't. You cannot get your 13 frame rate here. Normally moves that are mid, and force crouch. But yeah, minus 13. This one's only minus 12. So some characters can get a nice punish, but most characters are just going to have to settle for the wall standing 4. The last move I do want to talk about here is one that is probably being thrown out a lot with the lower ranks, which is Lars's kind of like somersault thing here. It's up forward 3+4, and from this he can kind of go for this mid, right? Or he can go for this throw. And this throw is actually breakable. I can break that with 1+2. You can also duck it because it is a high. But you have to press 1+2 if you hear the snap. If you hear the snap, you are grabbed. Mash 1+2, you have all day to break it. Alright, let's talk a little bit about Lars' stances before we go. He is a pretty stance-heavy character. I mentioned his wall standing 2 is a prime way he likes to get into stance. This is minus 5, right? And he has a Power Crush homing high to kind of dissuade you from pressing at the minus 5. But you don't really have to respect the stance transition on pretty much most of Lars's moves. The thing that actually makes you respect this is that he can finish the string, right? Because the second hit of the string can knock you down. So it's really a question of, do I think he's going to finish the string? And if I do, I just block and punish. And if I don't, you can actually contest this stance. You don't have to hold the stance just because there's a Power Crush, and I'll show you why. What we can do about this is I can swing with a down 4-1 and still have time to duck. Now, you used to be able to jab into this, but the jab is going to whiff because he's in a high crush state. So, down for 1 is the safest option here, and then you can just do your launch option if he does. So this makes this backlash kind of option. It does at least stop the Lars player from just blatantly getting launched for going into his stance, but you can see, like, it's not even that scary to get hit by this, especially if I just do like a low crush option, like I go airborne, I don't take that much damage. So you can still just like alternate between like, oh, I want to do this, I can still block, I can still duck, kind of safe check. Sometimes you can check them with like your hop kick option, that would also be fine. We can also just like step guard. Step guard is also fine. Now, which way do we want to sidestep his silent entry? For the mid launcher, the -14 one I showed you earlier, you actually do want to step this one to the left. It covers the weak side of Lars. I stepped in too early, but if you step at the right time, it will clear it. So you can sidestep this one to the left. The only problem is, most of the rest of the stance, we're going to be sidestepping right. The low option, we sidestep right. So when it goes into the stance, you can sidewalk like that, but it's kind of tricky to do. So you might just want to call this out with a block and go about your business. That's silent entry. He also has dynamic entry, which of course has the gigantic homing mid, which is the main move you're going to see out of this. The thing about dynamic entry, he does have a low option now. So he never used to have a low from the stance. To fit with his new mix-up style, he can go low out of dynamic entry. He can also go into silent entry from dynamic entry by hitting forward, which creates this kind of like funky stance movement. You can also cancel dynamic entry into a sidestep and then do another one. That's what like L-Train and all the cool Lars players like to do. Dynamic entry is mostly a tool that you're going to see in neutral, but he can get into it off of some moves, such as his down forward 3. Puts him right in his dynamic entry stance. It is minus though, so you do not have to respect dynamic entry transitions on block at all. You don't have to power crush here, you can just hit him out of this. Actually, he's just giving you plus frames and hoping that you don't press. Why would you not press? Because down back forward 3 has a follow-up down forward 3. So again, it's this kind of mind game of, am I going to finish the thing or am I going to go into stance? This time, there is no power crush in dynamic entry that you have to worry about. In this stance, you want to like probably look for the lows because you're not going to be able to punish the mids. So if you have a read on, oh, he likes to use this mind game here, and he likes to go in low, then I just like to read the lows in this stance and punish them because 3 plus 4 is -14, and then the 4 option is -12. So I like to just punish them. You could also try to low parry or hop kick. The last one to deal with is limited entry, and this one, like its name, is pretty limited in how he can get there. He basically has a mid out of it, and he has a low out of it. Very fitting name. And he's usually going to get there off of doing his 2-1 Punisher, and pretty much when he's there, you gotta hold this. Like, there's too minus to really do anything about it. So you just read the mix-up, -12 low, and -9 mid. So the frames on both of these moves, I believe, get better in heat. If he goes into limited entry on block, you can just hit him out of it. You don't have to hold this at all. He can also do some while standing moves out of limited entry because the stance goes into a crouch and then goes into a while standing state, like after it stays there. So keep that in mind. And that's gonna do it for Lars Alexanderson. Hopefully this guy was helpful to those of you who've been dealing with Lars. I know he can seem like a lot when you're first starting out, but I promise he is one of the more straightforward characters to deal with once you get some punishment and some basic understanding of his stance game under your belt. Hope to see you next time. If you haven't already, please subscribe and check back for videos on Sundays, character guides, and I upload short Tekken tutorials every Thursday. Hope to see you next time. Did I say that already? Fuck.